Welcome back to the channel. My name is Evan and this is Sense or Sense. And today we're coming to you from the TXSE, the Texas Stock Exchange. I did a video about this several months back and it was kind of just an introduction. At that time they had a couple press releases and not a lot of other information out there talking about the actual TXSE itself, which stands for Texas Stock Exchange. And now there's a lot more information out there. And today I wanted to come to you and give you some of the additional information, take a look at their website, give you some of my analysis on what I think about it. And at the end, I want to tell you what I think about the whole exchange and whether or not I think it's going to make it and how it's going to benefit both Texas and the United States. So let's go ahead and dive in it. And let's get started. So it's a national securities exchange coming to Texas. It's actually going to be headquartered in Dallas. It's actually been in the works for quite some time, several years, and going back even, say, 20 years ago, a lot of the major governors of Texas had started talking about how the southern United States, in particular the southeastern United States, needed its own exchange. Every other area of the country has some sort of exchange. You know, you have the Pacific Stock Exchange out in San Francisco. You have the Chicago Board of Options Exchange in Chicago, obviously. You have the New York Stock Exchange, and you've got all these different exchanges that are all over the place, but you don't have one for the Southeastern United States, which encompasses a large portion of the growth in the United States in the last 5 years. And I think what culminated into all of this was that we went through the pandemic. We had a lot of companies relocate to Texas, and now we've got quite a few Fortune 500 companies here, as well as we had a huge surge in population growth. So both of those things are one of the reasons why TXSE has become more popular real recently. So let's go to the About page. Let's take a look about some of the things here. We expect to file a registration to operate as a national securities exchange in the coming months and aim to begin trading in 2025. Listings will follow. Our long-term vision for success spans the next 25 years and beyond. Over the next generation, we believe TXSE has the potential to transform the U.S. capital markets. So I read recently on December 4th, they went to the SEC and have started the process to get approved. Now that process takes some time, and they expect that by December of 2025 they should be able to start doing transactions, and by 2026 they should be able to start listing companies. I think that's a little bit more going on here. They like to say the bull market is coming home. Texas roots, global reach. The Texas Stock Exchange seeks to establish the premier venue for listings with high standards centered in quality, along with a fully electronic, innovative platform for trading. TXSE will be headquartered in Dallas and plans to serve U.S.-based and international issuers, investors, and market participants. So my understanding is that the TXSE is actually going to have a higher standard of listing than the New York Stock Exchange. So there's actually quite a few listings on the New York Stock Exchange that wouldn't even qualify to be on the TXSE. So they're hoping to be more transparent, more open, have more requirements, keep a lot of what they call the junk companies and some of the companies that really are listed for the wrong reasons off the exchange here in Texas. So as you can see here, back in October, there was a huge meetup of a lot of the central people associated with the TXSE, as well as you can see here in the center of this picture, Governor Greg Abbott. You have former Governor Rick Perry here just to the left right here. He actually sits on the board for the TXSE. And you have two huge players, Citadel and Blackrock, also committing millions and billions of dollars to this organization over time. Here are some facts that they're listing below. 1 in 10 public companies in the U.S. calls Texas home. Number one, Texas is this number one state for business, 28 years running. $2.6 trillion is the Texas economy. 50 plus Fortune 500 companies. And, those are all significant facts. And coming back around to this 2.6 trillion, look at this fact. It's the 8th largest economy in the entire world. Texas is. That's pretty astonishing. And I think it's been that way for quite some time. So mind you, it is a large state, but it has the 8th largest economy in the world. And that goes for all the nations, right? So The next chapter in a long history of success, it says here, a national securities exchange based in Texas has been a long time coming. More than 50 years ago, the Texas legislature commissioned a study on the feasibility of Texas-based securities exchanges. In the decades since, the state's diversified economy has only continued to flourish. Leading global economies in aerospace, agriculture, energy, finance, etc. call Texas home. With Texas's booming economy, pro-business policies, and growing population, the right time to establish a national securities exchange in Texas is now. So here's a pretty interesting little interactive map that they have that says the strength that spans the southeast quadrant. Texas isn't the only economic powerhouse in this region. Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas are known collectively as the Southeast Quadrant, SEQ. They lead the nation in economic expansion and population growth. And so you can see here that this is the region that they're talking about. And it talked about how this region pretty much made up almost the entirety of population growth in the United States over the last 5 years. As I've already said, Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world. If you group all of the other states in here, it just completely shows that this area of the United States pretty much transacts in large chunks of business for the entire United States. It's something like, I don't know the exact statistic right now, but it's a large percentage. If you exclude California and New York, it's like half the amount. So it's a huge amount of the overall U.S. economy. I think that this is going to be a very interesting setup for the TXSE. I think that they're going to be able to bring new businesses to listings. Some listings are so difficult to get on the New York Stock Exchange that a lot of companies just give up over time, or they can't fund it because of the cost. I think the TXSE is going to try to reduce the amount of cost and the red tape to be able to get listed. There's something to be said about being listed in a state, especially if you're a Texas-based company being listed in the same state. You can be dual listed, so you can be listed on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ or one of those other exchanges as well. That doesn't preclude you from being there as well, but I think it goes to say that if you can get into a new exchange at a lower price and ultimately be a part of a new way of being listed, it might be beneficial for your company that's located in this SEQ area. And so my thoughts on this, based on the press releases that have come out over the last 6 months or so, as well as who backs it. You've got ex-Governor Rick Perry, you've got Governor Abbott support, you've got 2 large hedge funds, you've got quite a few players that have been in hedge fund world, as well as listings elsewhere, as well as sitting on the New York Stock Exchange and other boards across the United States. This has some legs to it. I think that they've got the funding. I think that they've got the backing of the local government, and now they're just going to have to wait for the feds to come in and say, hey, the SEC is going to allow for it, or it's not going to allow for it. But I think that this has the ability to become something big over the next 10 to 15 years. It will take significant time. It's not going to happen overnight. They don't even plan on starting to list companies until 2026. I would imagine that there might be a few to start out with. There probably won't be a whole lot. It will have to take off a little bit. It'll have to, 1 or 2 companies will have to be the guinea pigs, so to speak, and before anybody else significant lists on the exchange. But overall, I think this is going to be a really interesting exchange in the United States. It's the first one of its kind in this southeastern quadrant. And, having that ability to be in the same area where the companies are has other benefits as well. A lot of the companies can share information. They can ultimately have press releases in the same region that they're located in. And they don't have to worry about necessarily traveling as far to go to the New York Stock Exchange. There are all kinds of other things, but ultimately, these are the reasons why I think it might succeed over time. I'm probably like a 50-50 on the success rate, just because it's extremely difficult to set up a new exchange in the United States. The SEC and the other regulators have made it very difficult to compete with the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. So I think that there might be a big deal to get past those hurdles, but if it can, and it can get a few good companies, one or two of those big 50 companies to co-list, not just in New York, but also at the TXSE, I think it has the ability to lure other companies. And with the amount of growth we have in the southeastern quadrant in the United States, I think it might have the ability to do something really special over the next 10 years. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and I appreciate all the support that you've been giving recently. The channel's been growing pretty consistently, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks again.